Okay, thank you, Ken. Are you having sound now? My mistake there. Are you hearing me? Is the audio okay? Can you hear me? Could someone please type in the chat box? Please confirm if you are hearing me. We have a number of people already there, and we are in. We have sound. Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Once again, good morning and welcome to Loving Soulfully Webinars. This series has been covering the topics of self-love up till now, and now we dive into the area of relationships. The first part we're going to begin with today is love killers. Yes, the things that destroy our relationships. In fact, I think it's been really worked out to be almost an art. We've become so good at it. We become, and I'm not just saying you, I'm talking about me. I have done it big time, as in being able to mess up relationships and create conflict and create, and not understand and eventually lead to the breakup of relationships. And some, few may not have broken up, may have stayed in a relationship, but may have had to suffer the downfall of, when a relationship gets into tough places and we don't have the right tools to communicate, we end up shutting down. We end up becoming closed up. And the result of which is not perhaps the most ideal scenario. So some people end up having affairs during that time. Some people end up looking to other solutions. Others just get busy with life and kids, and that becomes everything. But I want to see if we can keep the romance alive. I want to see if we can keep the fires going. I want to see if we can, and it may not be the same as when you first started off. I'm certainly not trying to say that, but yeah, we definitely deserve to have an incredible life. So once again, I sorry, I messed up with the audio here all over again. We're going to start again. So once again, I want to welcome all of you to the Loving Soulfully webinar. And we've had a few hiccups this morning. I hope all is well. Please confirm that you are hearing and seeing me. I've not been so good at it today. All right. So welcome to the Loving Soulfully webinar. Once again, for those of you who are late, there's a few people who just come in, and it sounds like we're good. All right, great. And I just wanted to let you know the format that we're going to be, after this couple more minutes, we're going to dive right into the pre-recorded segment of the webinar, where I'll be playing back for you the main points that I want to kind of share with you, and the tools and the skills. I also have a summary of the tools, so that you can actually download it. I'm going to present that in the same chat area that you're in right now. Please feel free to ask your questions, write your comments, share your experiences. We all want to hear. I particularly want to hear. Your being here live is very encouraging to me, and it gives me the chance to be able to hear you, to be able to understand what your needs are, deal with your comments, ask you, questions. It's great to have you here. I just want to say that in short. It's very inspiring to me. We've got a number of people already in the room now, and just going to see if there's anything further. Otherwise, we're going to get started. So the main content is here. I will, during this time, be giving you, during the pre-recorded segment, be listening to your comments and your chats. So please do not hesitate to write them down. Even as you're listening to the pre-recorded segment, the chat box is available even after that, and I'll be paying attention. I will be reading, I will be commenting. Mark your questions. If you see the sticky note there in the chat area, mark your questions as a question. They can be comments, but the questions I need to know. So there's a place where you can mark it, little white circle. It'll become red when you click on it. And that tells me that you have a question here, so that I can give those priority and answer them first, especially. So after the pre-recorded segment, we'll go into Q&A, and that's where I'll address them on the video itself. Some things I'll try and comment on in the text, but wherever relevant, I'll try and bring up your questions and discuss them here. So be with you now. The pre-recorded segment is going to start in a few moments. And I'm also going to be making available during this time I think at the end I'll do that. I'll make available the tool sheet whereby you can actually take down some of the tools that I'll be discussing during the pre-recorded segment. So let's get ready.
Hi, my name is Rohit, and today we continue our exploration of loving soulfully by diving into the love killers. Yes, I'm talking about all the things that kill love, that destroy relationships, and that all the ways in which we, without realizing it unconsciously, have developed the art of destroying even the greatest love of all. Now, this love does not just apply to relationships, it also applies to our friendships, it applies to being with our children, it applies in almost every area of life. Love is a universal energy, and the art of enhancing it and the art of destroying it is relevant to all of us. So stay tuned, and I'm going to be in here telling you a lot about some of my discoveries. Hi, and welcome back. As I said, today we're going to explore the love killers. And what I mean by that is the things that we do consciously or unconsciously, often probably without realizing it, that have destroyed even the best of our relationship. My own experience has been very rich and colorful. I have been very successful at destroying my relationships. I've loved and I've lost. I've loved dearly, passionately, giving all of myself, and I've lost perhaps the greatest love of my life. I've been hurt and deeply brokenhearted. And I can tell you this, that If you have gone through it, you're probably going to wish you never did it again, and then you'll go back again and love again. But in the process, what often happens is we get shut down, our hearts get armored, we make it more and more difficult for anyone to reach us and to love us. And we do this by the process of blaming the other person, sometimes blaming ourselves, and sometimes I've even blamed love itself. And what I found is that the more I blamed the other person, myself, or love, the more I got shut down, the harder it became to overcome the hurt and pain that I had gone through. So I'm going to talk to you now about what it takes to prevent that happening. And to get there, I'm going to first read to you a little bit from my book, Loving Soulfully, about the kind of pain that love lost can feel like. The tears of yesterdays have dried after their incessant downpour. The rhythm of my breathing is all that remains of the life I once had. Breath carries me deep within myself. I find peace, but I feel disturbed. I find hope, but feel disillusioned. I feel saddened and broken beyond repair. I bring my tale of sadness, loss, and pain to the shore of aloneness. I call out to endless waters and vacant skies. What shall I do? Where shall I go? Who will love me now? An inner voice beckons, let go of everything and come home. I protest, I do not want to give up and die. She replies, death is an illusion. You who are deathless must die every moment to be reborn into timelessness. The inner voice continues, broken and tormented, you come to me asking, where is love? Why am I alone? Why does love torture me? Look now at your creation. Do you find beauty, peace, joy, freedom, love, and hope? Or do you see battlefields littered with pain, hurt, anger, sadness, and fear? You have turned to people and things to meet your needs for love, happiness, pleasure, and security. You have chased money, fame, and power. You have believed in science, religion, and politicians. You have worked hard, played hard, and tried every thrill imaginable. Yet no matter what you believed or did, no matter how much or how little you have had, your thirst was never quenched. You have been chasing shadows, life after life. What you long for cannot be found outside of you. The treasure you seek, the answer to all of your troubles, lies freely, abundantly, and endlessly within you. Within you lies yourself, your soul, your essence. Therein shall you find the fulfillment of all your desires. Therein shall you find unlimited, everlasting love, peace, joy, and wisdom. What you do not see within will be invisible in your world, and what you see within you will find everywhere. So the very first thing I learned is about self-love. I learned that there is such a thing as authentic self-love and egoic self-love. Egoic self-love was that which we do when we try to please ourselves through our mind. We try to love ourselves through our mind. We do things like shopping. We do things like massages, and we try ways to externally pamper ourselves, and we think that is self-love. And I found that that is not accurate at all. Authentic self-love arises from the authentic self, which is the soul. The awakening of the soul is vital. That part, which has been sometimes called enlightenment, has been thought of as being something very difficult to attain, but I found easy, simple, beautiful ways to get there. What I found is that when awakened, the soul is able to love us in ways that our mind cannot even begin to comprehend. It knows how to unconditionally love us with all our flaws. And once we have practiced truly loving ourselves with all our flaws, and accepted ourselves for who we are, it is very easy to do that with a partner. So to me, that is the foundation, that is the beginning point, and then there's much. Let's go ahead and explore that as well. So we live in a body, mind, soul organism, and there's no escaping it. The body has its own needs, the ego has its own nature, and we're going to have to learn and see how it works, what it does, and how it kind of messes things up. Because love is actually a spiritual energy, according to me, and that energy has a certain way it thrives and a certain way it dies. The ego, on the other hand, the mind, does not know what that way is. it doesn't know how to love us the way we need to be loved. The ego is often misunderstood by people. They think it means pride or arrogance, or no, it's much bigger than that. It is the virtual self that is created from the time we are born. And I say virtual, others might call it a mental self, perhaps. It is a self created by the mind. It is your idea of who you are. When that idea is damaged in some way, you have low self-esteem, and when that idea is healthy, you have high or healthy self-esteem. Anyway, that self, the ego, is what forms your personality. It also identifies your needs, your likes and dislikes, your desires. It also holds the memory of your wounds, the things that hurt you along your life, the things that where you were abused or ridiculed or any of that, those kind of wounds. And it also holds your fears, because it is fearful of getting wounded again. See, the ego is a very fragile thing. It is always afraid. And that fear is what comes up in the course of our relationships, the fear of loss, the fear of being hurt. All those kind of fears are what actually mess up our relationships. So understanding the nature of the ego is very important. It's also important to understand what it does, and I've put that in a category that I call egoic logic. The ego has its own way of thinking, and of course we become very acclimatized or used to that way of thinking. We take it to be normal. We take it to be the only way of thinking. Unless, of course, you were to awaken your soul and have contrast, then you'd realize, oh, this is weird. The way this thinks is absolutely bizarre. But for now, you may not realize that. So I want to make you aware of how or what the things that the ego creates are, so that you can actually work with them. And the main thing the ego is trying to do is it's always trying to be right. It's trying to prove that it is right. So in the course of life, things happen. Those things form an impression on us, and those we'll refer to as life wounds. There are things that scar us, mar us. Those wounds or hurts and pains, or even successes actually, will form our beliefs. And those beliefs will be generalized statements such as life is like this, life is hard, life is a struggle, life is whatever, and then we'll have people are out to get you, people are going to use you, exploit you, people are mean, people are selfish, whatever that is, right? And then we have our expectations that, you should be this way, because that's how we discipline ourselves. We should be this way. And then this is how we deal with others. The expectations we have of ourselves, we then try to impose on others. We expect them to be and do and live according to our standards. And if they don't do that, then we reject them. We get hurt. I would never do that, we'll say. Or, how could they do that? I would never do it. So those are the expectations. And confirmation bias, which is really the big trap, is where the ego goes out trying to confirm its beliefs. I knew that you would do that. I knew that so I'm going to be careful. So basically it has a certain belief, and then now it's looking for evidence for that belief to be true. And whenever an incident arises, it will overlook what might not confirm its belief. Let's say people are cheaters. It will look for the beliefs where people are cheating or are lying. It will ignore all the times in which they spoke the truth and only focus on that which it wants to believe. That is called confirmation bias. So it's a bias that the mind has, and it is trying to confirm it. And that's what being right is all about. How does the mind go about doing this? It does this first by every incident it observes that comes your way. It tries to interpret this means this. So when you see someone behave a certain way or do a certain thing, it starts giving it meaning. When something happens in your life, it means this or that. It's always looking for meaning. When it realizes that someone is putting their meanings or interpretations on you, then it's busy defending and making excuses, justifying its position. To do that, it will often use emotional reasoning. That emotional reasoning is like, because I'm feeling this person is not okay, therefore this person is not okay. It's possible, but it doesn't have to be true. Because I feel that I hurt, that means you tried to hurt me. Because I feel a certain way means it is true. Really? Can you be absolutely sure of that? Have you verified that? No, most of the time we haven't. We're depending on our logic, we're depending, or that is our interpretation, we're depending upon our emotional reasoning to decipher the world. Then again, the mind comes up with assumptions. Why so stupid? Let's say if I were to ask myself that, it would say, well, you're stupid because you forgot your keys. We don't end up questioning. Are people who forget their keys stupid? We don't question it. We don't challenge it. It then taps on past data. Oh, you forgot your keys the last time too. You're always forgetting your keys. Now it comes up with a generalization. And that generalization will now become a fact. It'll become embedded in our mind, and we will begin to see it as reality. We will personalize it. I am a forgetful person, or you are a forgetful person. And we will make this very personalized. You are out to hurt me. You don't love me. We will make it personal. But is it really? Unless we challenge our mind, we're never going to know. Unless we look at both sides and all sides of the situation, we'll never understand. That's why people go to a therapist who will help see both sides of the situation, and hopefully that will help them see things. But what if you could do that in yourself? What if you could do that with your partner directly? It requires a certain amount of stepping back from your mind. Now, along with the egoic logic, the mind also has what I'd call egoic emotions. Remember that emotions usually arise from our thoughts. We think a certain way. We think this person is treating me badly. And now our emotions come up and we begin to really get hurt by this person's behavior. But what if this person is themselves disturbed about something? We've never really looked at what might really be going on with them. We've just jumped to certain conclusions. So when the ego's needs are not met, it starts to become reactive. And that's the emotions that come up. And often these emotions are fairly infantile, like a baby. An infant is unable to meet its own needs, and essentially the ego behaves in that way. It does not know how to meet its own needs. It looks to other people to validate you. It looks to other people to love you. It looks to other people to make you happy. And that tells you the infantile nature of the ego. A true adult is able to make themselves happy, is able to make themselves feel loved. But that does not seem to arise from the ego. It doesn't know how to do it. The soul, on the other hand, is capable of doing that. And that's why I've always talked about being able to love soulfully, to love yourself soulfully, to love your partner soulfully. Now, when the ego's needs are not met, like a baby, it starts to cry. When a baby doesn't get candy, baby cries. That's essentially what happens. It starts to cry. That crying could come out in the form of blame, usually. And that can come in the form of aggression, such as shouting at the other person, fault-finding them, criticizing them. It could also be passive-aggressive, where you hold it down and you pretend like nothing's going on, nothing's going on, nothing's going on, and then you explode. And the person says, what happened to you? Suddenly, out of the blue, you're like blowing your top. And of course, it can also come out in the form of crying. Those are all expressions where it's externalizing what it's feeling inside. The ego can also internalize, such as self-blame, and put you into a place of guilt or shame. Something is wrong with me. I'm so stupid. I'm not worthy of love. All these different ways that it will internalize its emotion. The result, if you keep doing this over and over again, is a kind of compounding. If it's about blaming others or righteousness, it can lead to a kind of arrogance or a sense of being better than the other person, of being more right than the other person. See, righteousness is really about imposing your shoulds and ideas upon another. It is a form of control. So that it can compound itself to become that kind of righteousness, or it can become wrongness, beginning to doubt yourself, feeling unworthy of love, feeling not deserving, and then tolerating bad behavior as a result. So the essential strategy that the mind or the ego creates is conflict attack. The attack can be either to the other or to yourself. It essentially does that by fault-finding, judgment. It also does that through control, such as trying to restrict the other person, or emotionally blackmail them, or threatening them to leave the relationship. Restricting them, such as if you talk to so-and-so person, then I'm leaving you. Or things like that, whatever it might be. Or it could be just a zillion different ways in which we try to control. But in fact, the more we try to control, the more we lose love, the more we lose the other person, the more we judge them, the more they get stuck in their patterns. The more we criticize and fault find, they will get stuck. The more we nag, it's completely counterproductive, and yet we do it. It doesn't work. None of it works. Control doesn't work. Criticism doesn't work. Sarcasm doesn't work. Tit for tat doesn't work. The mind has all these strategies, but they are useless. Completely and utterly and absolutely useless. And it's important to identify what happens. So we'll go even deeper. My first step I want to tell you to do as a solution is stop. Stop. Stop what you're doing. And realize that the enemy is not your partner, is not your friend, is not your child, is not you. It is the untrained mind. It's faulty logic. It's emotional reasoning. It's biased interpretation of events. It's assumptions and stories. That is the enemy. And being right is the ultimate enemy. That is that confirmation bias. It is where it's trying to prove its own theory by eliminating all the facts that don't agree with it and only holding on to limited data that agrees with it. The mind doesn't look at the whole picture of how someone may have been such a great partner to you, been so wonderful, devoted themselves, and now they had this one indiscretion and now it's over. You never loved me. You were never interested in me. And all of this comes out. But true. Can you take one indiscretion and turn that into a fact that that person doesn't love you? We really need to learn to challenge ourselves. I'm not saying anything is right or wrong. I'm simply saying unless we challenge our mind, unless we understand both sides of the story, we're never going to be able to bust the mythology created by our mind. So the first thing we need to do is what I call a U-turn. Instead of being in your head, come into your body. Take a deep breath, maybe take a few deep breaths. Become aware of the body sensations that are going on inside you. Breathe into those sensations. So if you're feeling a tightness in your belly or you're feeling a stiffening of your shoulders and you're scrunching up your face, loosen it, relax, breathe. Notice what your body is experiencing, because your body is holding on to certain feelings, truths that might be helpful here now. So begin by first self-soothing. Self-soothe yourself in and say, hey body, hey mind, it's okay. We're going to be all right. Whatever's going on right now, we'll talk about it with our friend, our partner, and we'll work this out. Okay? Relax. Take it easy. Let's get all the facts. Let's understand properly what's going on. Let's see both sides of the story. All right? So that's where we begin to soothe ourselves, comforting ourselves in that way. See, the truth is we've been triggered. And that trigger is arising from your own stuff. It's arising from the roots of your own life experience. That experience could be your childhood. It could be things that happened later in your teens or later on in your relationships. Wherever it's coming from, it's good to get to the roots of that. Because if you get to the roots of that, you'll realize it's not your partner's fault. They're triggering something in you, and that something needs healing. Now, if you know how to do that, great. You can work with a therapist or a coach, but you do need to get to that. The most powerful thing you can do in the moment, again, is self-soothe. Breathe, relax, and reassure yourself. It's all going to be okay. We'll figure out where this is coming from. I don't know right now, or I do know right now. And this is where it's coming from. It's something that happened in childhood, and this happened, and, like that. You begin to soothe yourself. Think of your ego as a child who's having a tantrum, and then start to soothe it. And that'll cause a certain softening to occur, because you see what's happened is the mind has woven a story, created a myth, and thereby cast its spell on you. And what it's woven has some truth to it. But you see, when you take a little bit of truth, a limited truth, you can spin a huge lie around it. The truth really consists of understanding all different sides of the situation. Because until you have that data, you're living with a lie, a limited perception. To the degree that you are a believer of your mind, and the more you blindly believe it, the more it can torment you. Instead, observe it. Doubt it. Doubt your own mind. Whatever it's saying, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Don't believe it. Whatever it's saying, I don't know. Stick to that. Observe it, doubt it, challenge it. How do you know? Prove it. Where's the proof? This person doesn't love you. Really? How do you know? Right? Challenge it. Get the facts. And then whatever the assumptions are, let them go. They're possibilities. They could be true, but they're not necessary. Don't just jump to conclusions. And then drop into a place of vulnerability, of humility and openness. Be curious. More than anything, be curious. Because curiosity, openness, vulnerability, humility will help you get the answers you need from the person concerned. It will help you see things more clearly. It will open your eyes instead of being caught up in the whole spell of anger and hate and all the stuff that's arising in you. It will allow you to see things as they are. Instead, what you want to do is identify for yourself. What do I want, desire, and need? What are my shoulds and expectations? How do I interpret, generalize, and personalize? Really, write these things down if you want. And then tell them to your partner. Let them become aware of what goes on inside you. The more clear you are about what you want, desire, and need, what your shoulds and expectations are, how you interpret things when they happen, when they don't take the garbage out, when they don't wash the dishes, when they don't do this or don't do that. How do you interpret that? How do you generalize that? You never take out the trash. You never do this. You never. How do you generalize? And then how do you personalize it? How do you make it about yourself? That is not you. Your ego does that, actually. How does your ego personalize it? Oh, and then I feel unloved. I feel uncared for. I feel you don't respect me. Whatever that is, right? How does it feel when this happens? And what story does your mind make up? And then how do you react? So the more you can write this down and journal it and share it with the other person, or express it to them in conversation, either way is fine. As long as you're self-aware, you will be able to help the people in your life be able to navigate the waters of relationship with you in a more healthy way. You also need to know from the people you're with as to what their expectations are, what their wants, desires, and needs are, what their shoulds and expectations might be, how they interpret, generalize, and personalize, how they feel when you react the way you react. What story does their mind make up? And then what reaction do they go into? Maybe they shut down. Maybe they try to appease you. But is it healthy? Does it give them what they really want? And you'll have a wonderful dialogue if you are able to follow this process and do it with your partner. Keep in mind that the enemy is not your partner. It is the untrained mind in you and in your partner. It is their fault. I'm going to repeat this: the faulty logic, the emotion, the interpretation, the assumptions, the stories. It is being right that is the enemy. And if you do not mind, keep this always in front. If you do not mind, it will. So I'm going to read to you a little something from Loving Soulfully, and hopefully that'll shed some more light on these ideas. It's in a more poetic way, the same thought, but consider what it's saying here, and then we'll discuss it in the comments and the question and answers. I'd love to hear your views and thoughts as well. Love does not mind. The egoic mind is frail and fearful, unable to grasp the true nature of love. It constructs walls, ideals, and norms to hold on to love. It concocts conditions, fears, and mistrust to control love. It exploits religion, society, and tradition to regulate love. The trickster mind contaminates love. It twists your thoughts, bewilders your emotions, and manufactures all manner of untruth. It doubts your lover, creates imaginary scenarios, and incites conflict. Sooner or later, love finds a way to liberate herself from the mind's control, to tunnel through the corridors of your soul, to break free from confining relationships and breathe the fresh air of her natural sweetness. Mind and love are polarities that rarely meet. When you mind, you will not love, and when you love, you will not mind. Love has no expectations. When you bring expectations, needs, and fears to the temple of love, they will stand as boulders that contaminate love with their heaviness. They will pound your precious heart to pulp, leaving you sad and bewildered. The baggage you bring to love must be abandoned at her doorstep. For love comes not to serve you, but to be served. Not to please you, but to be pleased. Not to fulfill you, but to connect you with yourself. Not to be abused by you, but to dissolve all that you think you are. Love expects nothing and takes everything. Love strips you naked, makes you vulnerable, and gives nothing in return except love. Love has no need. Those who go to love to fulfill their needs must pay the price of love in exchange. Love will not allow herself to be used by you. Love's intent is to use you to express herself. When you resist love's intent, she vanishes, leaving you with shadows and memories. The ones you use to fulfill your needs have needs of their own. In the battlefield of needs, many have found themselves battered and alone. Seek not another to fulfill your needs. All that you need, desire, and seek lies within you. You are complete and powerful in yourself. Marvel at the tapestry of your exquisiteness. Explore its intriguing occurrence in another. Then you will know the secret of the divine paradox. You are all one yet different, divine yet human, perfect yet imperfect, complete yet wanting more. Then you will know that there is nothing you need, yet love is all you will ever need. So that will bring up many questions, I'm sure, and there'll be much that you need to ask. So please feel free to explore and really dive deep into this subject. There's much more to be said about how we destroy our relationships. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your opinions, your views. But in summary, I'd like to say the main point is that we are all flawed. We are all imperfect. And the biggest thing we need to let go of is our idealization of our lover. The more you put them on a pedestal, the more likely you are to bring them down. And unfortunately, that is what naturally happens when we fall in love with someone. We see the best in that person. We idealize them. We put them on a pedestal. And then sooner or later, when our eyes open, we tend to bring them down. Someone once said a little joke to me. He said, love is blind. And when you get married, you get your eyesight back. And what I got from that is that there comes a time in our relationships where we begin to see all the flaws in the other person. But really, that is the best time. That is the opportunity for us to be able to love them with their flaws. To love them for their difference, for the way they think, for the way they're different. They're not like you. You chose them, not because they were a carbon copy of you, but because they were different from you. Because that difference will help you expand, because that difference will teach you things about yourself that you were drawn to in them, things that you may have not explored or suppressed within yourself. Your unclaimed self is what attracts you to another person. So realize that you were drawn to them for this reason and begin to appreciate how they think, where they go, how their mind works. The more you're able to reveal yourself through vulnerability instead of defensiveness and argument and conflict, the more you'll begin to appreciate why you began to love them in the first place. The more your love will be ready to go to higher and higher heights. So love them as they are with their flaws and watch the magic of what happens. In the upcoming episodes, I'll be going over how we can make love grow even further, how we can turn it into the most divine and wonderful experience, the one that our hearts have been dreaming of, the one that we've been longing for, the soulmate love that we desire. That can be found, but it's an art and it needs to be learned. And in the next episodes, we will definitely dive into that. So stay with me and let's continue this journey. I want you to know that I love you, I'm here for you, and let's do this together.
Welcome back. So I hope you enjoyed that piece. I've also downloaded rather included a tool sheet that you can download, and that will give you the tips and tools that I talked about out here, so that you can actually apply this. You can print it out and you can apply it, share it with your partner if you have one, and be able to bring these things into your own life. Now, I've had some wonderful questions coming in, and thanks to Namita, I'm going to be able to take these up. If there's any one of you that still has questions and would like to ask them, please know that to add them in the chat box and to go ahead and mark them on the right side. They'll come up with a little circle over there. And that way I'll know it's a question and I'll be sure to take it up. So I would love your feedback and your inputs and your questions and your doubts and your comments, and anything that you might have to say is of value. Please remember that. All right. So one of the first things that I'd like to say about everything I've said so far does not apply to someone who is a pathological liar, a narcissist, a psychopath, a sociopath, or any one of these categories of extreme characters who some of you may have come across. I want to be very clear that this is about the average person that we all come across. This is about a person who is genuinely there because they love you and because they care for you, either as a friend, as a lover, and not as someone who's trying to exploit you and use you. Now, I know that typically the mind and ego is very fearful and will very easily try and put someone in that box. My point in all of this was to challenge the mind to see things as they are, to be able to give each person a chance to hear each other, because a lot of times we jump to conclusions, we assume things, we expect things, and we don't really balance the equation from both sides. So this is not to make excuses for the person who is deceiving and who is, this is not for that kind of person, someone who is deliberately trying to hurt. I just want to move away from the assumptions that someone is trying to hurt you to the fact that someone is trying to hurt you. When the facts become clear, see, the more objective you are, the more you'll be able to see the facts. Unfortunately, a lot of the times we're subjective. Now, what happens when you're subjective is, yes, you do react, you do end up saying things, you do end up doing, thinking and feeling things. A lot of times, people who are actually out to deceive you will go covert. They will tend to hide because they know that they're not getting away with their game the way they were playing it. So if you use some of the skills I'm giving you and actually go into revealing what is on a person's mind, what is in your mind, what is in their mind, you'll be able to stay on track more with what their actual intent is. Very hard to hide when you're being, well, to use the word, to being naked emotionally, naked in terms of your thoughts, in terms of your beliefs. You're really stripping away the layers of the drama that comes up and talking about what is actually going on behind the scenes in your heart, in your mind, and asking them to do the same. It's very hard for someone who is a deceiver or a psychopath or a sociopath or a narcissist to actually reveal themselves. They're not really good at that. They're very good at hiding. They're not very good at revealing. So all of this stuff, the tools that I'm giving you, will help expose people like that as well. Another question that was asked is about being able to receive. How do we actually receive someone? Let me see. How do you actually stand true and allow yourself to be loved? I love that question. The way we allow someone to love us is literally, it's in that word, allow. Allow them. Open your heart. What causes you to close your heart is fear. What causes you to shut down is the past. Because something happened in the past, the mind is projecting that the past equals the future. That is not true. The past does not equal the future, not even 1 second past. Let's say in the past someone did something. Yes, be aware, be alert. This person cheated, lied, this, that. Be aware that this might be part of their pattern and this might be part of what they do. Keep it as part of the equation, not the entire equation. It is not the entire definition of this person, but it is part of the package. And it's important to get to the root of that. What is causing this person to lie or cheat or any of these things? If you can actually go deeper, you'll be able to find out the root causes. Now, maybe those causes are something that is pathological, that they're just going to do it no matter what. They lie to everybody. They lie not only to you, but to their friends, to their colleagues. It's pathological. In that case, you may not want to pay the price of such a relationship. Because if they're doing it to others, they will do it to you. But the normal person will tend to lie if they feel scared. And if you can expose what is going on in their mind and their heart, and you understand that they are fearful of something, perhaps you're yelling at them, perhaps you're nagging them, perhaps you're criticizing them. And then that causes them to shut down, and it causes them not to really share what is going on with them. Yes, in those kind of cases, which is most cases, you'll be able to find out what is the behavior or action or words or whatever it is that you're doing that might be shutting down the other person. So this kind of vulnerability helps you bridge the gap and circumvent the problem. Okay? It doesn't mean that everyone, you got to start with the idea that people are innocent unless proven guilty. I don't say close your eyes, the proof might be there, but watch the patterns. For those of you that are skeptical about people, watch if there are patterns, but don't use confirmation bias, meaning that you've already prejudged them, you've already pre-arrived at conclusions, you're waiting for them to stumble and fall, and there they go. That is very hard to live up to. That makes it almost impossible to be in a relationship with such a person, with you, if you're going to do that. So if you want to allow someone into your heart and allow them to love you, allow. Meaning, look for the best in them, but also be observant about their flaws. They're going to have both. There is no human being, including you, that doesn't have both good and bad qualities. The question is, are those bad qualities okay with you or not? Are you willing to pay the price of admission? Think of it like that. Sometimes the price of admission is too high. And sometimes the price of admission is a little bugging. It's, okay, I can live with that. So you've got to be able to break it down to that. There are most things that people do can be worked around. The question only arises when there are some things you absolutely cannot work around. You're not willing to pay the price of admission. That is just crossing the line. And you may have talked about it, and you may have tried to work it out. And if nothing else works, then you know this is not where I want to be, because this is damaging my heart, this is damaging my spirit, and it is causing me to become or bring out the worst in me. But please do that before you really use that situation to take a look at what it is bringing up in you, what kind of triggers are there. Heal those triggers, work on that stuff so that you can use this situation, bad as it might be. But at the same time, don't presume that. I want to kind of, give you both sides of the equation so that we're not just sitting there with our hearts guarded and our, shut down and not allowing love in. It's the greatest tragedy of our times that we have moved in our ideas. Monogamy used to be basically that you fell in love with someone and you stayed with them till death do us part for the rest of your life. And now we fall in love with one person after another, and we call that monogamy. Unfortunately, the process of doing this each time armors our heart. Each breakdown, even within a relationship, but especially if it's a breakup, then the breakdown that occurs and the reforming and the reopening the heart causes us to become more and more and more skeptical. So I'm just asking you the way to come into a relationship, whether the one you're already in or whether the one that you're now about to get into or you're getting into, is to come with a clean slate. It's easier said than done, I know. It's easier said than done to really wipe off the wounds of the past and start fresh. But I'll tell you the key to doing that. Two things, two very vital things. A lot of folks would say forgiveness. I would put that second. First, before you go to forgiveness, I would say, what are the lessons I've learned from the past relationship where I got hurt? What are the constructive lessons? Not the lessons that say, oh, I'll never love again. That's not a lesson, that's a reaction. But what are the constructive things that I took? What are my takeaways? What are the things that I can do differently? How did I contribute to the problem? What did I attract? And what do I want from here onwards? So be very careful to really take the time to understand the lessons of the past, because that's what history is for. If we learn from the lessons of history, we are possibly not going to repeat them. That's the hope. And so if you've learned the lessons from there, then it's much easier to forgive. It's still hard, it's still difficult, but remember, you're not forgiving a person for bad behavior and thereby condoning it. What you are doing is you're saying, hey, there's nothing I can do about this. So, best of luck. Wish you all the best. I hope you'll learn your lessons along the way, and I hope you'll evolve into a better person along the way. But this didn't work out for me. So I forgive you only in that I release you. I see it as forgiving. Forgiving to God, forgiving to the universe, forgiving, releasing this experience, letting it go, so that you can start with a clean slate, so you can honor your own heart, so you can value your own life, and you can have the opportunity to be in love again. We all need that opportunity. We all deserve it. And let's not forget that no one person needs to have the power to be able to take that away from us. Let's take a look and see what other questions are there. A lot of you have been writing things here. It says, you said that we once perceive expectations from our loved ones and that thus... You said that we perceive expectations from our loved one and thus is an ego-driven. This is an ego-driven thought and action. Isn't it normal to have an expectation in a committed relationship? We expect that our partner loves us, therefore is mindful of being loyal or being responsible for what he has promised. You can keep in mind that people are not perfect, but that in all relationships there is a certain degree of healthy expectation. But what are your thoughts? But we all have a mind. We all have an ego, and the ego does create expectations. Those expectations come in the form of shoulds. Typically, they are, you should do this, you should do that, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. This is normal for the human mind and ego. So yes, we're going to have them. Does that mean that they are the most beneficial things? If we eat the wrong foods, we're going to get an upset stomach. Is it the best thing to do? Keep eating those wrong foods? Perhaps not. If it's going to cause you to be, if your expectation is healthy and can be worked, and the expectation can be expressed and it can be met, great. Wonderful. I expect my partner to be neat, and they are neat. Well, there's no problem. I expect my partner to be neat, but they're a slob. Well, we talk about it, we try to resolve it, we try to get to the bottom of it. We share how it feels to me and how it feels to them and what their needs are versus what your needs are. And no matter what you do, they're not able to break out of that habit. Now, you have an expectation. That expectation is causing you to be upset. Are you going to just keep on yelling and nagging at them? Are you going to break up with them? What are you going to do? Your expectation isn't serving you. See, an expectation should serve you. It should serve the relationship, not diminish it, not hurt you, not hurt the other person. So remember, the expectation is yours. You may have to modify it. You may have to negotiate it. You may have to hear each other's point of view and find something that is a win-win for both of you. I remember Byron Katie talking about this with her kids and how they would throw the socks everywhere. And, when they came home from school, and she used to get mad about it, went on for years, and finally, after telling them again and again, she realized, I'm the one that wants the socks put away. And so they just don't have the awareness to understand that. It's just not going to happen. Then she started doing it. And eventually, about a year later, they kind of got used to the idea and started doing it themselves. Now, maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. But think of it as the price of admission again. Maybe that's just what comes with the territory. This person has certain bad habits. Are those habits something you can live with or not? And I think that's a really important piece. We sometimes get caught up in the little things of life. We get wrapped up in the small little nitpickings. And it's not worth it. It is not worth it. Please keep the bigger picture in mind. Love is way bigger than your expectations. Love is far more important than all your shoulds and should nots. Those are there to help you and serve you. They're not there. Don't use them as weapons to destroy your relationship. If you've done it in the past, please don't do it in the future. Just learn from these things. They're so important. All right? Let's see what else we've got here. Thank you so much for your questions. I really appreciate this. Namita also asks, truth is personal, never universal, isn't it? Love your questions. Is the truth personal, individual, or universal? Wow. Okay, let me be with that a moment. First and foremost, we all carry a personal truth. And much of that personal truth is based upon our beliefs of what we believe your mind has already come to believe is true. It's already arrived at certain conclusions. Have we challenged those conclusions? Have we ever examined them? Have we ever gone and presented them in front of others and tested them? Do they work? Are our truths really absolutes? Do we have to assume them to be true for everyone? Maybe they're true for you, but do they have to be true for your partner? Do they have to be true for your friend? Not necessarily. We all carry our own individual truths, which is basically conclusions we've arrived at. Okay, so that's our beliefs. We also have our individual perceptions of things. We see things differently than the other person does. What we see, the way we see it, we believe that to be true. You'll notice that every person believes what they see to be true. What we feel, we believe it to be true. Yet every person believes the same. And often these beliefs are not the same. So obviously there is a relative truth. When you talk of personal truth, it is a relative truth. It is a subjective truth. Okay? So as long as you keep that in mind, you'll be able to actually hear the other person out. If you believe your truth is the only truth, it is the truth, it is the absolute truth, you're going to have, to the degree you believe that, you're going to be in conflict and you're going to be in heated conflict. You're going to fight tooth and nail because you believe your view, your version, your perception, your feeling, your emotion is absolute and cannot be shaken. So the more inflexible you become, the more rigid and likely you are to destroy your relationship. It's a total love killer, my truth. On the other hand, are there universal truths? I do believe there are universal truths. And as long as the universal truths are not contaminated by human interpretation, they work. whether it's the law of gravity, or whether it's the law of karma, action and reaction. Whatever it is, there are certain things. The sun rises and sets a certain way, but these are observable. They are observable by everyone, right? And as long as something is observable by everyone, we can call it a universal truth. Keep in mind that most things we argue over or fight over are not universal truths. They are very, very, very subjective. All right, let's see what else we have here. What is a committed relationship? Well, that's another big, big, big question. There's two kinds of commitment. There's the commitment that is formed because of a social contract or religious contract. And most relationships seem to fall into that category. Social or religious contract, an agreement made between two people to be together through health and through sickness and through this and that and ups and downs of life till death do you part. Now that's a social or religious contract, and as such, because we've entered into an agreement, a contract, whether it's before God, whether it's before society or the court registrar, it is our word we have given there, and it's important to honor that. Granted that there are times we will fail and fumble. And then when our partner does fail and fumble, if they have the humility and ability to change, we do need to consider that, because we all make mistakes, we all screw up. And it's really important to accept that fact. If you're coming from some idealization of your relationship, if you're coming from some idealization of your partner, then it's good to get them off that pedestal. It is good to see them as they are, as a flawed human being. Can you love them as they are? Not all of us have the capacity to take someone who's a thief, a murderer, a cheater, a liar, or especially a habituated one, and love them anyway. Maybe some great noble person can do that. You may have that ability, you may not have that ability. You may wish to stretch yourself to that level, you may not wish to stretch yourself to that level. But a committed relationship really is about committing to love. I believe it's about committing to love, to a situation where love will grow. My yardstick for love is creating the environment where love will grow and prosper and blossom and become even more and more as the years go by. My commitment is to love. That's how I see it. And I think it's really important for those of us that have come into this new era where divorce is so popular and breakups are so frequent, to be able to recognize that we need perhaps a new code of commitment, and to be able to understand, what are we committed to? Are we committed to the social contract? Are we committed to love? Are we committed to ourselves? It's not something I'm going to answer definitively one way or the other, but I'd like you to ponder on that. It's not something that has a clear-cut answer. But be committed one way or the other. Find out what it is you are committed to and stick with that. I think we've gone over the time, so I'm going to wind up over here. There are a few more questions. Thank you, Ken, for your appreciation here. And thank you for all the comments that all of you have made. I really appreciate you. I don't want to take this over time, so I will end over here. But I will look forward to further questions from you. Keep in mind that we're going to be continuing this series for a few more episodes. I'm not sure right now, about 3 or so more, during which time I will now explore what it takes for love to thrive and blossom. Also, there is a tool sheet that I have attached there. You can download it. If you didn't manage to get it for any reason, just get back to me and I will send you the link for it. I wish you all the best in love, and I hope that you will avoid these love killers. I hope that you will stay on and learn the skills that now help love thrive. Now that we know what not to do, let's find out next what to do. Okay? With all my love, all my heart, care, and I will see you soon.